following is a demonstration of how to build your website using Composer as shown in class. I will not be going into the detail I did in class, but simply showing you the steps as I walk through the book. So first of all, make sure that you do have your folder ready. So the one I'm using is the same as in class, the BA class website, and inside this are my two folders waiting for me with the images that I've pre-finished before I start this particular area, and my text area, which is where I'm holding some of the research material that I intend to use in building the sites, or rather building the pages. So let's close this. So find Composer wherever you have it saved and open. First of all, the tip of the day will come up, and again just close it unless you want it. If you open Composer and find that you have sites here that you do not want, click on the Edit Site list, select the one you do not want, and simply say Remove the site. And if you're unsure that you've got the correct BA class website or not, do exactly the same thing. Click at it, remove the site, click on New Site, and go and point to that new site again if you're unsure, and then simply say OK and OK. But remember, if you do have a domain outside of college, you need to go to your site domain provider and host provider and get the relevant information to fill this area in. The website information, but most importantly, the FTP settings. Again, from your domain provider or host provider, and OK. Click at the plus symbol, and this will open up any files or folders that's held within the main folder. So that's our website on our left, so that we can keep an eye on what and how it's being built. Over on the right is our first page. So in here, what we're going to do first of all, we're going to put in our first container, or rather our div I should say, and that will allow us to start building our website. So I'm going to put in our first div, and to do that I click up here, I ask for the generic div container, and as you can see it's in red. So down here I'm going to just simply right click on this and go to Advanced Properties. The attribute I want is ID, and the name here for the overall, and again it's up to you, but I just tend to call it container because it makes me think that everything's going to be contained within this area, and say OK. So as you can see, that's now done, and what we need to do now is maybe save this page for the first time. So to save this page for the first time, it's just nice and simple, click on Save, or you could go to File, and you could also go to Save. But we'll do it this way. So this is not the file name, this is the title for the page. Now, again, I'm just going to put in here page 1, but I will be coming back to this because this is very important when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization. And I'm going to simply say OK, and this will actually bring me to the saving area. Again, the most important thing here is to make sure it's in the right folder. Everything to do with your website must be now in the folder you've designated to hold that information. So in this instance, yes, I'm in the right area, but if not, I'd make sure I was. What do I want to call it? And remember the simple situation, or the simple rules, all lowercase, try to keep it to 8, and keep it really simple, and click on Save. You'll see now that this has now got page 1 beside it, and no longer has that little red area beside it. The minute I start to work on this, little red area will appear again, and that's simply telling me and you that at this point this file is not saved. Okay, so this is our first area now as we're going to go into and create our CSS, a cascading style sheet. So we're going to click on CSS, and this brings us up to here. We're going to click on Internal Style Sheet, and we're going to click on the Refresh button, and we're going to export the style sheet. Again, making sure I'm in the right place, and I just simply want to call this web.css and save it. And simply make sure it's up here, web CSS, excellent. So I'm going to put my first style into here, and this is going to be the style for the container. So I'm going to click on my CSS sheet, and there's only two things in this course that we're going to deal with, and that is the style elements and the elements of the ID, i.e. the divs. So in this instance, this is the div, and again, if you look at the example, it's going to bring you to the right one at all times. The div containers all have hashes before them. So I'm going to click on this, open up this box, and this will contain any divs that you have created. So it's the container I want, create the style rule, and here we are. And I'm going to work through all of these. Again, I'm not going to explain these as I did in class. I'm just going to do what I want to do in this instance. So I'm going to go to the background. I'm going to colour the background of my div white, to make sure it is white at all times. I'm going to go to my box, and I'm going to ask in here for a pixel of an 800 box. I'm going to ask for my margins to be automatically adjusted on the right and the left of anybody's screen, which means that it will automatically go to the centre of anybody's screen as they go to it. And I'm going to say OK to that, and I can see on the screen that everything's OK. And again, remember this is the little red item that I just talked about earlier on. So I'm just going to click on Save to make sure that it's all safe and sound. And remember, the reason for the CSS is if I change it on one page, it changes on all pages that I build within my website. So with that done, I'm going to create all my other divs now in here. So making sure my black cursor is in there pulsating, I'm going to come back up here, I'm going to ask for another div. Again, it didn't happen, so what I'm going to do now is just press return a few times to give myself a bit of space. That's good. So the same thing again up here, I'm going to go to div, and there we go. And again, I'm going to just double click on that, or right click, get the ID, and here I'm going to call this div banner, exactly the same words as we agreed when we were doing all the pre-building, the pre-work. Again, you can see it down here, which is excellent. Coming down onto the next line here, doing the same thing again. And it's just a repeat performance really, until I get my divs in at this point that I actually want. Div into that, and I want to call this menu bar. Oh, sorry, wrong way. That's the ID. It's the attribute with value, which is menu bar. And okay, into here, again the same thing. Final one. There we go. Just going to go back into the main area, making sure I'm in it. And again, you can see down here that I'm in it. Down there. And what I'm going to do is just press return a few times, open that space up. Again, I can get rid of all this space as and when I want to at any stage. But when I'm creating it, I like to have space so that it actually helps a little bit. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to save that. And I'm going to just do a couple of rules for my headings. So I'm going to go back to my CSS. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to click on my CSS in here. And I'm going to ask for a style applied. If I open up this is all the styles that are pretty straightforward styles. And I'm going to go to heading 1 and create the new style rule for heading 1. So this will be applied to all of my main headings wherever I apply it on my website sheets. So in this instance, I'm going to do some pretty straightforward things to this. Okay, and just let me get my list of what I want to do here. So I'm going to actually ask text to be predefined to Arial, and I'm going to go for a font size of EN. And I'm going to increase that to 3. I'm going to ask for a colour of a nice deep blue, because my site's going to use blue. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to ask for it to be bold, and I'm going to ask for it to be in the centre. And currently I think that's enough. I could do a background colour, but I'm going to leave it white in this instance. I could put a border around it if I wanted to, and again, it's very important you experiment with these and find out exactly what it will do. I don't have to go near the box, because I put the divs inside the container box, so they will all have the same width and position now on the page. And I'm going to say OK to that. If I come in here and just type in the word heading and highlight it for you for one moment, if I were to click on this and ask for heading 1, you'll see it'll do exactly what I actually asked when I set it up. So you can actually set up any style in this manner. And again, once you apply a style to anywhere on it, that means that you can actually apply the style once and once only, and it will cascade itself through all the other pages. So that brings us to the beginning of putting in the other styles that I want you to look at. And again, what I'm going to do, I'll just do one more for you. I'll go to CSS, and again, making sure I click on my CSS in here, style. What I want to do in here is I want to go to heading 2 style, create the style rule, text again. I'm going to do predefined to Arial again, but this time with the font size, again I'm going to go to EM, but I'm going to make it much smaller, and I think I'll actually put it to 1.1, or is it maybe 1. Yeah, I think 1.1. I'm going to put the colour in, and again, if I want to know what colour it is, I can go here, but if I did know the hexadecimal, I'd actually put it in here. For argument's sake, if I actually highlighted that, I put in a hexadecimal code of 333399 and said, OK. You see it's very close to that blue. I do want it to be bolded, so I'm going to ask for bold. And I don't want to do any alignment, because I want to just leave it where it is. And I'm going to say OK to that. And the final one I'm going to do is I'm going to go again to my CSS. Again, click on my CSS in here, make sure it's selected with the heading areas, and I want to go to my body text and create the style rule. Again, I'm going to go to my text. Again, I'm going to stay with the same thing. So I'm going to go to predefine. I am going to ask for the font size again to be EM, but maybe just size 1. But this time I want the colour of my text to be black. And that's fine at the moment. And I don't think I want to do anything else. I'm going to say OK. So I've got some of my areas done. And again, I'm going to save this. Now again, if I look over here, I don't see my red.css, but I know it's there. So anytime you know you've got a file or a folder that you can't see it, just click on the refresh button, and anything that is there will pop up. So as you can see, you can now see our page 1, and you can see our web.css. Okay, for now I'm going to just simply delete this, because I'm going to leave it as a prepped blank page waiting for us to come back to it. Now this will bring us up to where I got to in class 1. So I hope you've enjoyed this so far, and I hope you find that this movie helps you in some way to bring it all back.